The massive ship moved through space like a silver mountain. Its hull stretched for miles, covered in lights that blinked in perfect patterns. Inside the command center, High Admiral Zektar stood before a wall of screens showing star maps and data readings. His four arms moved across control panels, while his large eyes scanned the information flowing past. "Another system scan complete, Admiral," reported his science officer. The creature looked like a walking tree with crystal growths instead of leaves. "Sector 7749 shows one star with 9 planets. The third planet has life." Zektar barely looked up from his reports. The galactic hegemony had been mapping this outer region for months. Most systems held nothing interesting. Gas giants, dead rocks, maybe some basic microbes if they were lucky. Real civilizations were rare out here in the empty zones. "What kind of life?" he asked, his voice showing no real interest. "Carbon-based bipeds, Admiral. They call their world Earth, according to their radio signals. Technology level appears very low. They have split the atom recently and built some basic rockets." "Rockets?" Zektar made a sound like laughter. "Chemical propulsion? How primitive." "Mark it as developing and move on." The science officer tapped his crystal fingers on the control surface. "Should we make contact, Admiral? Standard first contact protocols suggest no." Zektar finally turned around. His tall, thin body cast a long shadow across the room. "Look at the data yourself. These humans barely left their atmosphere. Their biggest ships can barely reach their own moon. They fight wars with metal bullets and explosive chemicals. Why waste our time?" The science officer pulled up the detailed scans on the main screen. Earth appeared as a blue and green ball spinning slowly in space. Small metal objects orbited around it. Primitive satellites and a tiny space station. The largest ship the humans had built was smaller than a hegemony escape pod. "Their technology does show rapid advancement," the science officer noted. "In just 100 of their years, they went from horse-drawn vehicles to spaceflight." "Many species show rapid early growth," Zektar said with a wave of his hand. "Then they hit the hard problems: faster-than-light travel, gravity manipulation, energy-matter conversion. Most never solve these puzzles. This species will probably destroy itself with nuclear weapons before they reach their nearest star." Other officers around the command center nodded in agreement. They had seen this pattern before. Young civilizations often burned bright and fast, then collapsed under their own ambitions. The galaxy was full of dead worlds that once held promise. "File the report in the development database," Zektar ordered. "Schedule a follow-up survey in 500 years. If they survive that long, maybe we will reconsider contact." The massive hegemony ship turned away from Earth's solar system. Its reality-bending engines activated with a sound like thunder, and the vessel disappeared into the folds of space-time. Behind them, Earth continued its quiet orbit around its yellow star, unaware that it had been judged and found wanting. On Earth's surface, Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in a laboratory beneath the Atacama Desert in Chile. She did not know about the alien ship that had just left their system, but she was working on something that would have surprised High Admiral Zektar very much. "The test results are confirmed," she told her small team of scientists. "The particle accelerator data proves our theory is correct. Space and time are not separate things. They are one fabric that can be folded, twisted, and even torn." Her colleague, Dr. James Park, looked up from his computer screen. "Elena, if you are right about this, it changes everything we know about physics." "It changes more than physics," Elena said quietly. "It changes humanity's future." The underground laboratory hummed with activity. Researchers from 12 countries worked together in secret, funded by a coalition of governments who understood that Earth needed to reach for the stars. They called it Project Prometheus, after the ancient myth of stealing fire from the gods. "Show me the calculations again," Elena said. Dr. Park pulled up a complex equation on the main display. Numbers and symbols filled the screen in patterns. That would have meant nothing to most people. But Elena saw something beautiful in those mathematical relationships. If we create a quantum field resonance at exactly these frequencies, she explained to the team, we can make space-time itself ripple like water. A ship inside such a field would not travel through space. It would make space come to it. But the energy requirements, another scientist objected. We would need the power output of a small star. Elena smiled. That is where human creativity comes in. Other species might try to generate that much energy. We will borrow it from space itself. Quantum vacuum fluctuations contain infinite energy. We just need to know how to ask politely. The team worked through the night, as they had for many nights before. Above them, the world went about its daily business. People worried about politics, money, and love. They had no idea that beneath their feet, a small group of humans was solving problems that would reshape the galaxy. In his private quarters aboard the Hegemony flagship, High Admiral Zektar reviewed the day's survey reports. System after system scrolled past on his personal screen. Dead worlds, gas giants, asteroid fields. The outer rim sectors were mostly empty space with little of value. He paused briefly on the Earth file. The blue planet looked peaceful in the static image. Primitive, but peaceful. The humans seemed to spend most of their time fighting each other over resources and territory. Classic pre-spaceflight behavior. Computer, predict development timeline for species designation human, he commanded. The artificial intelligence responded in a calm, synthetic voice. Based on historical patterns of similar carbon-based species, technological stagnation is predicted within 50 to 100 local years. Nuclear self-destruction probability, 37%. Ecological collapse probability, 22%. Survival to interstellar capability, less than 5%. Zektar nodded. Those numbers matched his own experience. For every species that successfully joined galactic civilization, dozens fell by the wayside. The universe was not kind to the weak or foolish. He closed the file and moved on to more important matters. The Hegemony controlled over 10,000 star systems across the galaxy. Real threats came from established powers like the Crystalline Confederacy or the rebel movements in the Andorian sector. A primitive world like Earth barely deserved a footnote in imperial records. But beneath the Atacama Desert, Elena Vasquez made a final adjustment to her experimental apparatus. A small device, no bigger than a basketball, hung suspended in a web of magnetic fields. When she activated it, space around the device shimmered like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Dimensional distortion confirmed, Dr. Park announced. We just folded space-time by 1 millimeter. It was the smallest possible measurement, barely detectable by their instruments. But it proved that humans could bend the fabric of reality itself. Elena looked at the shimmering distortion and smiled. High Admiral Zektar would not have recognized the significance of this moment. To him, it would have seemed like children playing with toys. He was wrong. Humanity had just taken its first step toward the stars, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. 30 years had passed since the Hegemony ship left Earth's system. High Admiral Zektar was now an old man, his once dark skin faded to pale gray. The galaxy had kept him busy with real problems. 3 rebellions in the outer colonies. Trade, wars with independent systems. A plague that wiped out 2 entire species in the Vega sector. Earth never came up in any intelligence briefings. Why would it? The last survey showed humans using chemical rockets and fighting with primitive weapons. If anything, they had probably destroyed themselves by now. Most young species did. But the galaxy intelligence networks were wrong. Earth was still there, still spinning around its yellow star. And humanity had been very busy. Dr. Elena Vasquez was now 67 years old. Her black hair had turned silver, and she walked with a slight limp from spending too many years in underground laboratories. But her mind was as sharp as ever. She stood in the main assembly bay of the most secret facility humanity had ever built. The UES Defiance hung in the center of the massive cavern, suspended by invisible force fields. The ship looked nothing like the chemical rockets that humans had used decades before. Its hull was smooth black metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange geometric patterns covered its surface, glowing softly with inner energy. The ship was not large by galactic standards, only 800 feet long, but it contained technology that would have amazed the hegemony's best scientists. "Final systems check complete," announced Captain Sarah Chen from the ship's bridge. Her voice echoed through the assembly bay speakers. "All drives showing green. Weapon systems armed and ready. Defensive screens at full power." Elena smiled as she watched technicians make last-minute adjustments to the ship's external sensors. Project Prometheus had succeeded beyond her wildest dreams. The small space-time distortion they had created 30 years ago had led to breakthrough after breakthrough. The Defiance did not use rocket engines or even the fusion drives that most spacefaring species relied on. Instead, it tore holes in the fabric of reality itself. The ship could appear anywhere in the galaxy instantly, limited only by the navigation computer's ability to calculate safe jump coordinates. Its weapons were equally revolutionary. Instead of firing energy beams or missiles, the Defiance could manipulate gravity fields to crush enemy ships or create quantum disruptions that would shut down any electronic system. The defensive screens did not absorb incoming attacks. They bent space around the ship so that weapons fire simply passed through empty dimensions. "Dr. Vasquez," called Dr. Park from his control station. He was Elena's oldest friend and the only other person who remembered those early days in the Chilean desert. "We are receiving final mission approval from the Global Council." Elena nodded. The Global Council represented every nation on Earth. They had spent 5 years debating this mission, arguing about the risks and benefits of revealing humanity's existence to the galaxy. Finally, they had reached a decision. Earth needed to know what was out there among the stars. "Captain Chen," Elena said into her communication device, "you are cleared for departure. Remember, your mission is observation and first contact if possible. Avoid conflict at all costs. We want to join galactic civilization, not start a war." Captain Chen's voice crackled back through the speakers. "Understood, Doctor. We will be humanity's ambassadors to the stars." Sarah Chen was 35 years old and had spent her entire adult life preparing for this moment. She was a former fighter pilot who had volunteered for the space program when she learned about Project Prometheus. The Global Council had chosen her to command the Defiance after years of testing and training. She understood both the honor and the terrible responsibility of her position. Her crew of 127 people represented the best that humanity had to offer: scientists, engineers, linguists, and soldiers from every continent. They had trained together for 3 years, learning to operate technology that had never been tested in real combat conditions. "All stations report ready," announced Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez from the navigation console. "Jump coordinates are locked in. Destination, Hegemony Space. Grid reference, 7749 Alpha." Elena felt a mix of excitement and fear as she watched the final preparations. Humanity was about to take its place on the galactic stage, but they would be entering a universe where they knew nothing about the politics, the dangers, or the other species they might encounter. "Defiance, you are clear for departure," she said formally. "Good luck, and come home safely." The ship's reality-tearing drive activated with a sound like reality itself was being ripped apart. Space around the Defiance began to shimmer and fold. The black hull seemed to stretch and compress as the ship slipped between dimensions. Then it was gone. The assembly bay stood empty except for the force field generators and the smell of ozone in the air. Elena walked to her private office and sat down at her desk. Through her window, she could see the Chilean mountains rising into the blue sky. Somewhere up there, beyond the atmosphere, Captain Chen and her crew were traveling faster than light toward an uncertain future. She opened her personal computer and began typing a message to the Global Council. The Defiance has departed on schedule. Initial jump successful. We should receive their first status report in 72 hours, assuming their communication systems function properly across interstellar distances. She paused, thinking about what else to say. How do you describe the moment when your entire species takes its first step into the larger universe? Project Prometheus is now entering its final phase. For 30 years, we have worked in secret to develop the technology that would allow humanity to reach the stars. Today, we discover whether we are alone in a hostile universe or if there is a place for us among the galactic community. Elena saved the message and leaned back in her chair. Through the facility's internal communication system, she could hear technicians discussing the Defiance's departure. Some were excited, others were worried. All of them understood that they had just witnessed history. Thousands of light years away, the Defiance emerged from its reality jump at the edge of hegemony space. Captain Chen stood on the bridge, looking at the star map display that showed their position relative to Earth. Jump successful, reported Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez. We are now approximately 47,000 light-years from home. Local. Space appears clear of traffic. Captain Chen nodded. The ship's sensors were already scanning nearby systems, looking for signs of civilization. According to Earth's best estimates, they were now in the territory controlled by the Galactic Hegemony, the largest political entity in the known galaxy. Begin passive sensor sweeps, she ordered. I want to know what is out here before anyone knows we are here. The bridge crew bent over their control stations, activating the Defiance's advanced detection systems. These sensors could detect energy, signatures, communication signals, and gravitational distortions across hundreds of light years. If there were alien civilizations in this region of space, the Defiance would find them. Captain, called Ensign Walsh from the communications station, I am picking up artificial signals from the star system designated Alpha 7749 Prime. Multiple sources, very high energy output, definitely technological in origin. Captain Chen felt her heart rate increase. After 30 years of preparation, humanity was about to make first contact with an alien civilization. Set course for the Alpha 7749 Prime system, she ordered. Maintain maximum stealth protocols. We observe first, make contact second. The Defiance turned toward its first destination, its reality-bending drives carrying it silently through the cosmic void. Behind them, Earth continued its slow orbit, unaware that its children had finally left home to explore the infinite mystery of the stars. The Defiance drifted silently at the edge of the Alpha 7749 Prime system, its black hull invisible against the star field. Captain Chen stood on the bridge, studying the display screens that showed their first glimpse of an alien civilization. Analysis. Complete, Captain, reported Science Officer Martinez. We have identified 17 artificial structures in this system. The largest appears to be a space station orbiting the fourth planet. Several smaller vessels are moving between the station and various mining operations on the outer asteroids. Captain Chen leaned forward to examine the detailed scans. The alien ships were elegant, with sweeping curves and bright hull markings. They moved with purpose and precision, clearly following established traffic patterns. This was not a primitive civilization. These beings had mastered space travel and built a thriving interstellar economy. Any signs they have detected our presence? She asked. Negative, Captain. Their sensor sweeps are very thorough. But our stealth systems appear to be working perfectly. We are effectively invisible to their technology. Chen nodded. The Defiance's designers had built the ship to avoid detection by any known scanning method. Its hull absorbed electromagnetic radiation, its drives produced no detectable energy signatures, and its quantum screens bent space around the ship to hide its gravitational mass. Communications Officer Walsh, are you able to translate their language? Ensign Walsh looked up from her station with frustration on her face. I am picking up constant radio chatter between the ships and the station, Captain. But the language is completely unlike anything in our databases. The computer estimates it will need at least 48 hours of continuous monitoring to begin building a basic translation matrix. Chen frowned. Earth's linguists had prepared for this problem, but she had hoped for faster progress. How do you introduce yourself to aliens when you cannot speak their language? Keep monitoring their communications, she ordered, and begin preparing our first contact package. Mathematical sequences, atomic structures, star charts, universal concepts that any technological species should recognize. For 6 hours, the Defiance observed the alien traffic patterns. The crew learned that the space station was called something that sounded like eternal vigilance in the alien tongue. It appeared to be a military outpost with armed patrol ships, making regular sweeps of the system's outer boundaries. Captain, called Lieutenant Rodriguez from the navigation station, one of their patrol ships is approaching our position. Current distance, 2 million kilometers and closing. Chen felt a spike of concern. Are they scanning us specifically? Negative. This appears to be a routine patrol sweep. But they will pass within 50,000 kilometers of our position in approximately 30 minutes. Chen made a quick decision. Helm, move us to the far side of the system's primary asteroid belt. Maintain stealth protocols. Let them complete their patrol. Then we will move closer to attempt communication. The Defiance slipped silently through space, its reality-bending drives producing no detectable emissions. The alien patrol ship, a sleek vessel about half the size of the human ship, continued its sweep pattern without showing any signs of awareness. But aboard the patrol ship Vigilant Sword, Sector Commander Vrextal was not as oblivious as the humans believed. His species had evolved from pack hunters, and his instincts told him something was wrong in his territory. Sensor operator Clicks, he said to his subordinate. Run a deep-field gravimetric scan of grid sections 7 through 12. Clicks, a thin creature with 6 arms and crystalline eye clusters, worked at his control station. Scanning now, Commander. Standard readings across all sections. No artificial gravity signatures detected. Vrextal paced around the small bridge of his patrol ship. He had been protecting this system for 8 years, and he had learned to trust his hunting instincts. Something had changed in the past few hours, but he could not identify what. Run the scan again, he ordered. This time, look for quantum disturbance patterns. Check for anything that does not belong. Meanwhile, aboard the Defiance, Captain Chen was preparing for humanity's first official contact with an alien species. She stood in the ship's main conference room with her senior officers, reviewing the communication protocols that Earth's diplomats had developed. We will begin with basic mathematical concepts, she explained to the assembled crew. Prime numbers, geometric shapes, chemical elements. Once we establish a common frame of reference, we can attempt more complex communication. What if they are hostile? Asked Commander Thompson, the ship's security chief. Chen had wrestled with this question for weeks. Our orders are clear. We avoid conflict at all costs. If they attack, we retreat immediately and return to Earth with intelligence about their capabilities. Captain, interrupted Communications Officer Walsh over the ship's intercom system, I am receiving a directed transmission from the alien patrol ship. They are broadcasting on multiple frequencies with what appears to be a standard challenge. Chen and her officers rushed back to the bridge. On the main screen, they could see the patrol ship had changed course and was now moving directly toward their position. Translation? Chen asked. Still working on it, Captain. But the tone and repetition pattern suggest they are demanding identification and requesting our intentions. Chen took a deep breath. This was the moment they had prepared for. First contact between humanity and galactic civilization. Open a channel on all frequencies, she ordered. Begin transmitting our first contact package. The Defiance began, broadcasting mathematical sequences, star charts showing Earth's location, and basic information about human biology and technology. The transmission was designed to be peaceful and non-threatening, a universal greeting from one intelligent species to another. But aboard the Vigilant Sword, Commander Vrextal interpreted the alien transmission very differently. The unknown. Signals were complex and sophisticated, clearly indicating advanced technology. But they were also completely outside normal hegemony communication protocols. This is either a rebel ship using new encryption methods, or we have encountered a hostile force from outside hegemony space, he announced to his crew. Either way, they represent a potential threat to Imperial security. Vrextal activated his ship's weapons systems and opened a channel to the space station Eternal Vigilance. Station Commander, this is Vigilant Sword. I have detected an unidentified vessel using unknown technology. The ship appears to be running silent but is broadcasting what may be jamming signals or scanning pulses, requesting permission to investigate with force if necessary. Station Commander Zeknal, a veteran officer with 20 years of frontier experience, made a quick decision. Permission granted, Vigilant Sword. If the vessel does not respond to standard identification protocols, treat it as hostile. Additional patrol ships are being dispatched to assist. Captain Chen watched with growing alarm as 3 more alien ships appeared on her sensors, all converging on the Defiance's position. Captain, reported Walsh urgently, the lead ship is broadcasting what appears to be a surrender demand. The translation is still incomplete, but I believe they are ordering us to shut down our engines and prepare to be boarded. Chen faced an impossible choice. Earth's orders were to avoid conflict, but allowing the ship to be captured would reveal humanity's location and technology to potentially hostile aliens. The Defiance represented 30 years of human scientific advancement, technology that could be catastrophic if it fell into the wrong hands. All stations. Battle stations, she announced. Defensive screens to maximum power. Prepare evasive maneuvers. On the bridge of the Vigilant Sword, Commander Vrextal watched as his scanner. Operators tried to lock weapons on the mysterious vessel. I cannot get a solid targeting lock, reported his weapons officer. The ship's hull seems to be absorbing our scanning beams. Then we fire where we can see it, Vrextal decided. All ships, open fire. Disable that vessel before it can escape. Or signal for reinforcements. The 4 hegemony patrol ships opened fire simultaneously. Particle beams and plasma missiles streaked across space toward the Defiance's position. Captain Chen watched the incoming weapons fire on her tactical display. Activate quantum displacement screens, she ordered calmly. The alien weapons passed, harmlessly through the space where the Defiance appeared to be, striking empty vacuum. The human ship's revolutionary defensive system bent space-time around the vessel, creating the illusion that it occupied a different location than its actual position. Return fire, Chen ordered reluctantly. Gravity pulse weapons only. Disable. Their ships, but do not destroy them. The Defiance's weapons were unlike anything the hegemony had ever encountered. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, the human ship fired controlled gravitational distortions that could shut down electronics and artificial gravity systems without causing permanent damage. The effect was immediate and devastating. All 4 hegemony ships suddenly lost power, their crews floating helplessly as their artificial gravity systems failed. Emergency lighting flickered on as backup power systems struggled to maintain life support. Captain Chen stared at the disabled alien vessels floating dead in space. First contact had gone terribly wrong. Instead of peaceful communication, humanity had just defeated 4 military ships of an unknown alien government. High Admiral Zektar stood before the emergency meeting of the Hegemony War Council, his aged face showing the strain of the past month. The holographic displays around the circular chamber showed star maps, ship movements, and classified intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The situation is unprecedented, he announced to the assembled commanders. An unknown vessel has appeared in 7 different systems over the past 30 days. Each encounter follows the same pattern. The ship appears without warning, demonstrates superior technology, then vanishes before our forces can respond effectively. Fleet Admiral Mortok, A massive creature with armored skin and multiple eyes leaned forward. What do we know about their capabilities? Zektar activated a tactical display showing the encounters. Their technology operates on principles we do not understand. They can appear anywhere instantly. Their weapons shut down our electronics without causing permanent damage, and their defenses make them nearly impossible to target. Nearly impossible? Questioned Admiral Corvin from the Third Fleet. Commander Vrextal managed to obtain sensor readings during the first encounter, Zektar replied. The ship appears to bend space around itself. Our weapons pass through empty dimensions while the vessel remains safely in normal space. The War Council members exchanged worried glances. In 200 years of hegemony expansion, they had never encountered technology this advanced. Even the rebellious species in the outer sectors used conventional weapons and defense systems. Has intelligence determined who is responsible? Asked Admiral Mortok. That is our greatest concern, Zektar admitted. The ship's design matches no known species in our databases. The quantum signatures are completely foreign. We may be dealing with an invasion force from outside our galaxy. Admiral Corvin studied the tactical reports. An invasion force consisting of one ship? A scout ship, Zektar corrected. If this vessel represents their basic technology level, their main fleet could be unstoppable. But in the deep reaches of space, Captain Chen was dealing with a very different reality. The Defiance drifted in the shadow of a dead moon, its crew working frantically to repair damage from their latest encounter with hegemony forces. Hull. Breach sealed on Deck 7, reported Chief Engineer Martinez. But we lost another quantum field generator. If we lose one more, the defensive screens will fail completely. Chen rubbed her tired eyes. 3 weeks of cat-and-mouse games with alien patrol fleets had taken their toll on both the ship and crew. Every encounter taught them more about hegemony technology and tactics, but it also revealed how outnumbered they truly were. Any progress on language translation? She asked Communications Officer Walsh. I have been monitoring their communication channels constantly, Walsh replied. The computer has built a basic translation matrix, but their grammar is incredibly complex. I can understand maybe 60% of their transmissions. Enough to attempt diplomatic contact? Walsh hesitated. Captain, I have been listening to their internal communications. They are not discussing diplomacy. They are coordinating a galaxy-wide hunt. Every ship in the hegemony fleet has orders to capture or destroy us on sight. Chen felt a cold weight in her stomach. Earth's hopes for peaceful first contact had collapsed completely. Instead of joining galactic civilization, humanity had become its most wanted enemy. What about the civilian populations? She asked. Have we learned anything about the species under hegemony control? Science Officer Martinez pulled up his analysis. Reports. I have identified at least 12 different species within their territory. Most appear to be conquered peoples who provide labor and resources to the hegemony war machine. There are signs of resistance movements in several systems. Chen made a decision that would haunt her for years to come. Set course for the Kepler. Mining station in grid 4792. According to our intelligence, it is operated by enslaved workers from the Andorian species. We are going to help them. The Defiance moved silently through space toward the mining station. Chen knew she was exceeding her orders from Earth, but she could not stand by and watch oppression when humanity had the power to make a difference. The Kepler mining station hung in orbit around a gas giant, its massive industrial complexes processing rare elements from the planet's atmosphere. Thousands of workers labored in terrible conditions, mining materials that would build more hegemony warships. Scanning the station now, reported Martinez. I count approximately 8,000 workers and 300 hegemony overseers. The workers appear to be kept in primitive living quarters while the overseers enjoy luxury accommodations. Defensive forces? Minimal. 2 patrol ships and some automated defense platforms. They are not expecting trouble this far inside hegemony space. Chen studied the tactical display. The mining station was a symbol of everything wrong with the hegemony system, a massive industrial operation built on slave labor and oppression. "Begin the operation," she ordered. "Disable their communications first, then the patrol ships. I want minimal casualties among the workers." The Defiance attacked without warning, its quantum disruption weapons shutting down the station's defensive systems in seconds. The patrol ships drifted helplessly as their electronics failed. Emergency power kept life support running, but all weapons and communication systems were offline. Chen opened a communication channel to the station. "Attention, Kepler Mining Station. This is Captain Chen of the Earth vessel Defiance. Your workers are now free. Any hegemony personnel who wish to surrender will be treated according to the standard laws of war." The response came from the station commander, a hegemony officer named Keltar. His voice crackled with rage and confusion. "Unknown vessel, you are attacking a lawful hegemony industrial facility. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences of your actions." "The only consequence I see," Chen replied calmly, "is that 8,000 enslaved beings are about to taste freedom for the first time in their lives." The liberation of Kepler Mining Station took 6 hours. The Defiance's crew worked with the freed Andorian workers to disable the automated mining systems and prepare the industrial equipment for destruction. Chen wanted to make sure the hegemony could not simply re-enslave the workers after the Defiance left. But the operation had consequences that Chen did not anticipate. The freed workers sent messages to resistance groups throughout hegemony space, spreading word that a mysterious ship was striking back against their oppressors. Within days, rebellions erupted on a dozen worlds. High Admiral Zektar received the reports with growing fury. The unknown ship was not just a military threat. It was inspiring revolt throughout the Empire. "The situation is escalating beyond acceptable parameters," he announced to his staff. "The mysterious vessel has attacked 3 more installations and freed over 20,000 workers. Our intelligence reports that resistance movements are coordinating their activities based on the ship's movements." "What are your orders, Admiral?" asked his aide. Zektar made a decision that violated every principle of hegemony military doctrine. "Issue fleet-wide authorization for extreme measures. Any station or colony that harbors resistance activities is to be considered a military target. If we cannot capture this ship through conventional means, we will force it to reveal itself by targeting civilian populations." The order went out through the hegemony communication network, reaching fleet commanders across the galaxy. Civilians, who had lived under hegemony rule for generations, suddenly found themselves classified as enemy combatants. Captain Chen watched in horror as hegemony forces began bombarding civilian colonies suspected of supporting resistance movements. The tactical displays showed orbital bombardments destroying cities, refugee ships being hunted through space, and mass executions of captured rebels. "Captain," reported Walsh with tears in her voice, "I intercepted a transmission from the hegemony, 3rd Fleet. They destroyed a refugee convoy near the Vega system. 8,000 civilians, including families trying to escape the fighting." Chen stared at the tactical display showing the debris field where the refugee ships had been destroyed. She had tried to help oppressed peoples gain their freedom, but her actions had resulted in massive civilian casualties. "Send a message to all hegemony forces," she ordered quietly. "Tell them that humanity remembers what they have done today. Tell them that we withdraw our offer of friendship." The Defiance turned away from hegemony space and activated its reality-tearing drive. As the ship prepared to jump back toward Earth, Chen sent a final transmission on all galactic frequencies. "People of the galaxy, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Defiance. We came to your stars seeking friendship and peaceful contact. Instead, we found an empire built on slavery and oppression. The hegemony has shown its true nature by murdering innocent civilians to draw us into battle. Earth will remember these crimes." The transmission ended, and the Defiance disappeared into the folds of space-time. Behind them, the galaxy held its breath, waiting to see how this small, unknown world would respond to the hegemony's challenge. High Admiral Zektar studied the final transmission from the mysterious ship. For the first time, he had a name for his enemy, Earth. Ancient survey records were pulled from deep storage archives, and the connection became clear. That primitive world they had dismissed, the hegemony Third Fleet assembled at the edge of Earth's solar system like a swarm of metal predators. 847 warships hung in the void, their hulls gleaming with weapons arrays and shield generators. It was the largest military force the galaxy had seen in over a century. High Admiral Zektar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the tactical displays show Earth growing larger on their screens. The small blue planet looked exactly as it had in the ancient survey records, peaceful, primitive, defenseless. Long-range sensors confirm our intelligence reports, announced his science officer. One inhabited planet, population approximately 8 billion. Technological level appears consistent with historical data. No orbital defense platforms detected. Zektar nodded with satisfaction. Whatever technology the mysterious Earth ship possessed, it was clearly not representative of their planetary capabilities. This would be a simple conquest followed by the complete destruction of a troublesome species. Fleet Admiral Corvin, deploy your battle groups in standard planetary. Assault formation, he ordered. I want those orbital positions secured before the defenders can organize any resistance. But as the hegemony fleet moved closer to Earth, something impossible began to appear on their sensors. Space around the planet shimmered like water, and massive shapes started materializing from the quantum foam of folded space-time. "Admiral," called the science officer with confusion in his voice. "I am detecting multiple large objects entering normal space around the planet. Energy signatures are unprecedented." The main display flickered and resolved into an image that made every officer on the bridge fall silent. 50 ships hung in defensive formation around Earth, each one identical to the vessel that had caused so much trouble in hegemony space. The black hulls absorbed sensor beams and starlight, making them appear like holes cut in the fabric of reality itself. "Impossible," whispered Zektar. "How did they build so many ships so quickly?" His tactical officer studied the readings with growing alarm. "Admiral, these are not just copies of the original vessel. The energy output from each ship is significantly higher. They appear to have improved their technology based on combat experience." On Earth's surface, Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the Global Defense Command Center, watching the alien fleet approach her homeworld. She was now an old woman, her body frail but her mind still sharp. Around her, representatives from every nation on Earth monitored the greatest crisis in human history. "Fleet status report," she requested. Admiral Sarah Chen, now promoted to overall fleet command, responded from the bridge of her flagship. "All 50 ships of the Defiance class are operational and ready for combat. Luna Base reports defensive systems are online. Mars shipyards have activated emergency protocols." Elena nodded. The past months had been a frenzy of construction and preparation. When Captain Chen returned with news of the hegemony's brutal response to their peaceful overtures, Earth's governments had finally understood the scope of the threat they faced. "What about our other preparations?" Elena asked. "Project Prometheus. Phase 2 is complete," Chen replied. "Every major asteroid in the system has been equipped with quantum displacement drives. If necessary, we can turn our entire solar system into a weapon." The hegemony fleet continued its approach, unaware of the technological revolution that had transformed Earth's capabilities. High Admiral Zektar expected to face primitive chemical rockets and nuclear missiles. Instead, he was entering a star system that had been converted into the most advanced fortress in the galaxy. "Open a communication channel to the planet," Zektar ordered. "I will give them one chance to surrender before we begin orbital bombardment." The transmission reached Earth's communication centers, where linguists who had studied the hegemony language for months provided instant translation. "People of Earth," Zektar's voice echoed through the command center. "You have harbored terrorists who attacked lawful hegemony installations and murdered loyal citizens. Your species will now face the consequences of your actions. Surrender immediately, and your deaths will be swift." Elena exchanged glances with the other world leaders present in the command center. The Chinese premier spoke first. "Admiral Chen, you have our authorization to respond as you see fit." Chen's voice came through the communications system with cold determination. "Admiral Zektar of the Hegemony Third Fleet, this is Admiral Sarah, Chen of the Earth Defense Force. You came to our home seeking conquest. Instead, you have found something your empire has forgotten, a species that refuses to kneel." The response clearly surprised Zektar. His science officer reported that the transmission was coming from multiple sources simultaneously, indicating a level of coordination the hegemony had not expected from a primitive world. "You have one opportunity to withdraw from our system," Chen continued. "Leave now, and we will consider this a misunderstanding. Attack our world, and you will discover why humanity has survived every challenge our universe has thrown at us." Zektar laughed at what he considered an empty threat. "Your single ship caused considerable trouble, I admit. But 50 vessels cannot stand against the might of the Third Fleet. You will surrender, or you will be destroyed." "Then you have chosen destruction," Chen replied quietly. The battle began without warning. The hegemony fleet opened fire with every weapon they possessed, filling space with particle beams, plasma missiles, and gravitational torpedoes. It was a display of firepower that could have reduced most planets to molten slag, but none of it touched Earth. The human defense fleet activated their quantum displacement screens simultaneously, creating a network of bent space-time that redirected every incoming attack into empty dimensions. To observers, it looked like the alien weapons simply vanished upon contact with an invisible barrier. "Impossible!" Zektar shouted. "Focus all fire on a single target. Overwhelm their defenses." 300 hegemony ships concentrated there, weapons on one human vessel. The combined energy output was equivalent to a small star's worth of destructive power. But the human ship simply phased partially out of normal space, allowing the massive barrage to pass harmlessly through its position. Then Earth struck back. The human ships did not use conventional weapons. Instead, they fired controlled bursts of the same reality-tearing energy that powered their drives. Space itself became a weapon as holes in the fabric of the universe opened inside hegemony vessels. The effect was immediate and devastating. Dozens of alien ships simply ceased to exist as their matter was scattered across multiple dimensions. Others found their internal spaces twisted into impossible geometries that tore their hulls apart from within. "Fleet status report," Zektar demanded desperately. "We have lost over 200 ships in the first exchange," his tactical officer reported with shock. "Their weapons appear to ignore our shields completely. They are attacking the fundamental structure of space-time itself." But the human counterattack was only beginning. Admiral Chen activated the system's hidden defenses, and space around Earth's solar system began to change. Asteroids that had appeared normal suddenly revealed themselves as massive weapons platforms. The moon's surface opened to reveal defensive installations that defied every known law of physics. Mars itself began to move. The entire planet, converted into a mobile weapons platform, changed its orbital trajectory and began approaching the battle zone. Its surface bristled with reality manipulation devices that could tear holes in space large enough to swallow entire fleets. "Admiral," his communications officer called urgently. "I am receiving surrender requests from over 100 of our ships. Their captains are requesting permission to withdraw." Zektar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In less than an hour, his magnificent fleet had been reduced to scattered survivors, fleeing desperately toward the edge of the system. The humans had not just won, They had demonstrated technological superiority so overwhelming that continued resistance was suicide. "All ships," he broadcast on the fleet emergency frequency, "retreat to minimum safe distance and await further orders." But Admiral Chen was not finished. As the hegemony survivors limped away from Earth, she opened a communication channel that reached across the entire galaxy. "People of the galaxy," her voice echoed through space on every frequency the hegemony used for communication. "Today you have witnessed the defeat of an empire that rules through fear and oppression. The hegemony told you that resistance was futile, that you had no choice but to accept their dominion. They were wrong. The transmission continued, carried by relay stations throughout hegemony space. On 1,000 worlds, enslaved populations looked up at the stars and heard a message of hope. Earth offers alliance to all free peoples and those who would be free. We possess the technology to break the chains that bind you and the determination to see justice done. The age of the hegemony is ending. The age of freedom has begun." In the depths of space, High Admiral Zektar sat in his damaged command chair, staring at the ruins of his once mighty fleet. Around him, his surviving officers worked frantically to repair their ships and prepare for the long journey back to hegemony space. He activated his personal communication system and sent a message. "To